All right, welcome to this Talk Business and Politics Web Extra. I'm with Robert Coon from Impact Management Group, Jessica DeLoach Sabin, analyst with Talk Business and Politics. The primary election season over on Tuesday night. We're here Wednesday morning, and we're going to talk first about some winners and losers. Jessica, your winner and loser of the night.
You know, the winners would be the Republicans who survived their primaries, the Republican incumbents, the ones who were pro-private option, because what this shows, hopefully, is that the state wants to keep what we've got in some form or another. They don't want to just get rid of everything. So I think that it was a big night for them.
All right.
I'm glad they're hanging around. Losers? Oh, gosh. How about just Donald Trump? I just think he's an overall loser.
Oh, man. All right. Coon, you get to combat that.
I don't know that I want to combat that. I would say my biggest winner, easy answer, Governor Asa Hutchinson. Put his flag firmly in the ground for these legislative seats. Almost swept all the ones he was targeting, but overall really had a good night. Biggest loser, I think you have to say the folks that were trying to use the political process to fight back on Arkansas Works or the private option, or
The
whatever
conduit
you want to
for
call it.
action,
That's
conduit
right.
for commerce.
Yeah, I mean, I
some
think
of those folks.
Right. I think there's still hurdles for that. I think the ideological hurdles probably still persist amongst the chamber, but a lot of that political fear that maybe some had associated with it is gone a little bit.
It would be very easy for me to say winners of the night, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, losers of the night, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders, but I'm going to go with a little unconventional wisdom here. I'm going to say my biggest winner of the night was dark money, which basically tipped the balance of power, I think, in the Supreme Court Chief Justice race. And I'm going to say dark money is my loser, too, because I think there's going to be a renewed focus by the legislature on how to do something about the proliferation of dark money in Arkansas. So there's my winner and losers there. That's pretty good, wasn't it?
No,
that's good.
That's been around there. All right, first question to you, Robert Coon. We're going presidential race here.
Okay.
Is it inevitable, and Jessica, you're going to weigh on this too, is it inevitable that we have a Hillary-Trump general election now?
I think it's pretty inevitable that Hillary Clinton's the Democratic nominee. For the Republican side, you know, I think clearly Donald Trump is ahead. If you look at kind of the delegate projections, I think 538 has a good kind of breakdown of kind of where all the candidates are. You know, Trump is kind of ahead of where he should be in the delegate count. You know, Rubio and Cruz are behind where they should be, but they're pretty close. I think Cruz has 58%, Rubio has 48%, but there's a lot of delegates still out there to get, and so you know, you got to have 1,237 delegates, and that's the game.
I guess the strategy is to take this thing to a convention, because you're probably not going to catch up with them on the delegate count.
I think that could be a strategy. It also depends on whether you're John Kasich and your Ben Carson's, who Carson said, you know, this week, hey, I don't see a path to the nomination. I think if you don't see a path, I don't know why you're still in the race, but I think ultimately it could go to a convention. You may see some big swings once you have further consolidation of the field, though.
All right, Jessica.
I think the worst thing that could happen to the GOP, at least the part of it that doesn't want Donald Trump to be the nominee, would be for Cruz or Rubio to drop out of the race, because Donald Trump hasn't shored this thing up yet. There's still a long way to go. And if anything, these guys could stay in and do what you said and take it to a convention. Now, it's far more complicated than we're making it sound.
Sure.
But I don't think it's over yet. And I think that there's good reason to stay in, because at the end of the day, if Donald Trump is the nominee, what's the GOP going to do? Not accept their candidate for president and work against him? That's not going to happen. And I don't think he's the standard bearer for Republican politics in this country either.
But you did hear a lot of Arkansas Republican elected officials last night saying they would get behind whoever the GOP nominee is, Donald Trump or other.
I did hear that. It's unfortunate.
All right. I will say I do think we are on an inevitable path that it will be a Hillary-Trump general election matchup, and we'll see where that goes. All right, let's go U.S. Senate race. John Bozeman now clearly going to face Connor Eldridge. I don't think there was any dispute that would happen. Jessica, I will come to you first. Yeah. How do you see that race playing out? What does John Bozeman do? What does Connor Eldridge do?
Well, I think John Bozeman he's kept a pretty good relationship with his voters. Now, granted, there were some people last night who were very disappointed that he got reelected or that he won his primary, but those people will come around to him. It's not like they're going to cross over and vote for the Democrat. Yeah. Connor Eldridge has been working very hard to get his name out, to have his own brand of Democratic Party politics on that level. He's out today working around the state, meeting people.
Working man's tour.
Doing the working
Yeah.
man's tour and hearing what people are, what they're saying and how they feel left behind by Washington. And I don't think that that's a bad thing to do. I think a lot of people clearly feel that way, but those people who feel that way are Trump voters.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an uphill climb, but he's working very hard and he's got a good message.
We'll see if there's some Trump Eldridge bumper stickers that come out on some backs of trucks. What do you think on that matchup?
You know, John
Robert?
Bozeman didn't show any weakness last night. I think there were people that maybe thought, oh, what does Trump do? Does that affect kind of anti-incumbency? And there really wasn't any of that. I think he showed very strong. What was kind of telling to me is, the Eldridge campaign, sent out almost immediately after the race was called. We challenged John Bozeman to 5 debates and 5 town halls, and I understand why they do that, but I mean they're hoping not to be dismissed by John's strong showing, and so ultimately, he's clearly in the driver's seat as far as I'm concerned. Connor Eldridge seems to be a legitimate candidate. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be an uphill climb in a reddening state.
Yeah, I talked to one of his supporters who said Connor Eldridge will be an underdog until November 8th. I mean, the whole campaign he's going to be playing the underdog card there. And I kind of see 2 tracks on that race. I see, number one, I think John Bozeman's going to try to drive as little attention to the race as possible. Let's just quietly go about our business and do our thing. Whereas Connor Eldridge will have an opportunity to take over the messaging in that race if he wants to pick a couple of key points, lob some grenades out there, and force John Bozeman to respond. We'll see if that happens. Another big race last night was the Supreme Court Chief Justice race. Going to make for some awkward office politics come next January. Judge Dan Kemp defeats Justice Courtney Goodson. Were either one of you surprised?
I was not surprised, but I can't help but go back to dark money in judicial races, the politicization of that race. It is such a scary road to walk down because when you're in court, you don't want to know the politics of the person who's trying your case. You don't need that in your life. There's plenty of other ways that can be in your life, but that is one realm it should not be in. But that's something that we're starting to see more of all through this country, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, Robert.
I wasn't really surprised. I kind of thought Kemp had the edge going into it. I was a little surprised with the margin being as high as it was. Obviously you have 2 candidates that didn't really start with a whole lot of name ID, and so when you have that amount of money being spent to define them, that's not unexpected. So I think dark money is an issue. I think whether or not it gets addressed or, in the legislative process, I think there's a lot of people talking about it. Obviously, there's some constitutional concerns on what they can do. So, and I'm not a scholar on that, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Yeah, free speech, anonymous free speech. There's going to be a lot of legal wrangling in terms of that. So, I think the other thing too for Justice Goodson is she's in the 6th year, I think, of an 8-year term. She's up for re-election in 2 years if she chooses to. The blueprint with the negative ads that were out there are kind of out there as a roadmap for somebody that may want to challenge her in 2 years, if anyone does.
Sure. And they will. I mean, that is now out there. That's the risk you take when you put yourself out for a race like this. There's always going to be a paper trail. So why wouldn't someone use that?
Last word.
It's a tenuous spot to be in. I think she finished around 42%. If you'd have been 48, maybe it doesn't show weakness. 42 is a little soft.
All right. We got to end it on that. All right. Robert, Coon, Jessica DeLoach Sabin, thank you both for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's our Talk Business and Politics Web Extra. We appreciate you. You can keep up with the latest business and political top headlines at talkbusiness.net each and every day. Thanks for watching.